was watching some Rising clips this morning, and I didn't get to see the show, but I feel like I saw the show. I read about it. I read the play-by-play as it was going on, but I watched these clips, and I think it was Patricio Pitbull, but he does a soccer kick, kicks the guy right in the head. I hate soccer kicks, and I'm not a prude towards this stuff, but I am towards that. It just reminds me of like an LA street riot more than a sporting competition. You guys know what a soccer kick is? Maybe I should start at that. Imagine your opponent is on all fours. It could be any position, but just imagine he's on all fours. You're on your feet and you come up and kick him in the head like it's a soccer ball. That doesn't even sound right as I say it to you guys and explain it to you, right? That probably didn't feel right as you just heard that. But when you add that tool, and if you go back to the Pride days, the soccer kick was allowed in Pride. Now, why that might be the most graphic sense of the definition and explanation, all it meant is that you can kick a grounded opponent anywhere, including the head. That's how the rule was written. But it then got affectionately named the soccer kick because many guys did kick a guy in the head like it was a soccer ball. I don't see the art in, I personally don't like this. That's not my message for you here. My message for you here is anytime you change a rule to the sport, you've now changed the sport. You really have. If you add one thing outside of the unified rules, you've just changed the sport of mixed martial arts. If you take something away, you've now changed the sport. Let me give you a personal example. Dan Henderson in Pride was going to fight Vanderlei Silva. So I asked Dan, who are you fighting? And he goes, oh, some Brazilian that Tito beat. That's what he says. And that's who he fought. He fought some Brazilian that Tito had beat. That Brazilian turned out to be Vanderlei Silva. But this was like the start of Pride. And it was kind of the start of Dan and Vanderlei's ascension. So for the most part, nobody really knew what you were getting into. We didn't know a whole lot about Vanderlei Silva. The world didn't really know a whole lot about Dan Henderson. Anyway, this turns into an all-out war. This is a great fight if you ever want to go back and watch something. But one thing that happened is they were down on the ground and Vanderlei jumps up to his feet. And Vanderlei had fought under these rules somewhere. Dan never had. And I can assure you, Dan never trained under these rules. I can assure you there was never a day that Dan kicked a guy in the head and treated his head like a soccer ball or had that done to him. So Vanderlei jumps up to his feet and just starts stomping on Dan Henderson's head. And Dan's kind of got to figure it out on the fly, right? He's underneath him. He's getting foots to the head. The first time one comes, you kind of like processing, going, oh, wait, that's right. That's within the rules over here. I remember somebody telling me something about that. Then you got to defend it. The second one, the third one's coming. It was like three of them get through and Henderson scram. I mean, the fight keeps going. But it was a mess, and it was just one of those things where if you change a rule, you're now doing a different sport. Those two guys, Vanderlei and Dan, even rematched later in their careers. Now the whole world knows who they both are. They're both just as good as they always were. They rematch in the States under the unified rules, of which that tool or technique is taken away. Essentially, you've changed the sport from what they did the first time. Essentially, they're now doing something different. Called the same thing, but different. It's different. And sure enough, you get a different outcome. And I see this many times. Where we're doing this thing right now with boxers versus MMA fighters. And for me, that story really never gets old. Even though it seems as though we've all already solved that, it seems as though that was answered way back in 1993 when Jemerson took on Gracie, or fast forward to Tony versus Couture. I mean, it seems as though, but the story just works. If you put enough time between it and you package it just right, it just seems like that story always becomes compelling with a little bit of time put in between. And now with Conor and Floyd, and I realize this is 2+ years ago, but that was the first time ever in a meaningful manner that it was done in reverse, where instead of the boxer coming over to the MMA world, the MMA world went and joined the boxing world under their rules. And I think that also showed us that it's a lot more competitive, but there were so many people, I can remember very clearly, like it was yesterday, that believed Conor was going to win. And I would always argue again, how can you say that? You got a guy who's done it 50 times in Floyd versus Conor who's never done it. You have a guy who's trained this since he was a little boy, third generation, against Conor who doesn't do this. And people go, well, sure he does. Boxing's a part of MMA. That was a ridiculous argument to the people that made it. To make believe that you're spending 15 to 20% of your time on a sport and you can be proficient in that sport was just a silly argument. I realized when the match went off, a lot of those people were right. It turned out that 15 to 20% was enough to carry Conor McGregor almost a half hour. But I still find at least the reasoning, right? You got to put it into play. There's a reason we have the fights. There's a reason we don't just sit and argue about it and then mail that person the award and the bonus money. There's a reason you have to have the contest. But from a logical standpoint, if you change the rules, you've now changed the sport.